Dumaguete.
Hello, Negros Oriental.
Hello, Sillimanians around the world.
This is Joshua Soldivillo.
And this is Ronelyn Vailoces.
Welcome to
Silliman.
For Silliman updates, the College of Engineering and Design won the overall championship for this year's University Intramurals as the event closed last Saturday, April 2, 2022. The College of Business Administration and the College of Nursing emerged as the second and third runners-up, respectively, for the ETRAMS 2022. Congratulations to everyone who actively participated in this year's Intramurals. You fought a good fight. Surely you made your respective colleges proud.
For alumni updates, Attorney Myrish Kadapan Antonio, an outstanding Sillimanian awardee, was recognized by the Consul General of the Philippines in New York as one of the recipients of the 2022 Sinagtala Awards for Distinguished Filipino Women on March 30, 2022 at the Kalayaan Hall Philippine Center in New York. Attorney Kadapan Antonio was cited for her exemplary achievement in the field of law and leadership training, thus serving as an inspiration for the Filipino-American community and Filipino women worldwide. Congratulations and thank you for making us proud to be Sillimanians.
Meanwhile, the university, in partnership with the Energy Development Corporation, or EDC, planted the first 100 seedlings of endangered native tree species in the SUEDC Binhi Arboretum last March 30, 2022 in Palinpinon, Valencia, Negros Oriental. Keep up the good work!
For career opportunities, the university is looking for an Information and Communication Technology ICT division head and one editorial technical assistant for the Office of the Information and Publications, or OIP. For more information, visit the Silliman University page for the details and requirements, or you can send an email to the Human Resources Department, that is hrd@su.edu.ph. That is all for today. See you next week for another set of #Silliman updates. This is a magazine program that talks about different aspects of Silliman University.
A program initiated to discuss matters concerning the campus by the sea. You're watching #Silliman. Hello, Sillimanians and friends of Silliman around the world. Thank you for joining us tonight. 27 days, 4 hours, and a few more seconds. That is the time left before democracy once again decides who will be the next leader of the country, both at the national and local level. According to the Commission on Elections, the prime movers of the May 2022 elections is going to be the youth sector, which accounts 56% of the votes of the Filipinos. Joining us tonight are the prime movers of the Silliman University Student Government, and allow me to begin with the Speaker of the House, Mr. John Christian Entrata. Christian, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, sir.
We also have with us tonight the Vice President for the Silliman University Student Government. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Japheth Barinaga.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
And of course, last but not the least, the President of the Silliman University Student Government, we have Myka Reambonanza. Myka, good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
All right, so Ron, let's start the ball rolling. Maybe we would like to ask first the updates with our student leaders here. What keeps you busy these days? What are the activities that you've been leading and spearheading?
Yes, sir. So, once again, good evening, everyone. I am Christian, the Speaker of the House of the 31st SUSG Student Assembly. So the Student Assembly is the legislative branch of the SUSG, and basically that's what I'm busy for lately. The Student Assembly is still writing resolutions for the benefit of the student body, taking into account everything happening, the SUSG elections, the national elections, the upcoming midterms, and also the screen break. So basically, akong life lately is very student-like lang, sir.
Wow. How about the love life?
Phone.
After graduation.
Right.
How about Myka and
Should I go first?
Yeah, John.
Actually, I'd like to connect my answer to what she said, what you said about love life. That keeps me busy.
Hashtag sana
I
all.
wish I could say that. No, it's also not that sad to say naman because it's a privilege to be busy with our,
Right.
with our
Yeah.
student lives. I can relate to that also, and with along with Myka, we're very hands-on with the executive committees and their activities and such, especially also with the upcoming national elections. I personally am volunteering for the candidate that I'm supporting, and that really is taking a lot of my time, but I feel glad that I'm involved because you know it satisfies my spirit of volunteerism.
Okay, thank you, Japheth. How about Myka?
Yeah, so I think the three of us are our love lives are connected to SG.
Actually.
Yeah, so actually in terms of SG, two aspects. First, in terms of just student events, we just closed our annual intramurals this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah.
I think you did a great job
Yeah,
there.
so that was spearheaded by the Sports and Recreation Committee. So that just finished. But in relation to our preparations for the national elections, we just closed as well our second run of the SUGOD survey. So that's to assess the pulse of the student body,
Correct.
which candidates they're supporting both in presidential, presidential, and senatorial candidates. So from those results, the discussions on how to go forward is still in talks. So yeah.
Thank you, Myka. You know, Josh, I'm really fascinated. I'm proud of these students.
Yeah, I think that's the word, proud. No?
And, you know, we are in the presence of student leaders. I'd like to ask them, what is leadership for you?
Oh, the 1 million question.
I'll go first. Okay. For me, leadership is also character. Leadership is volunteerism, and leadership is doing the job. It's not just I can't find a single word that will describe it, because in trying times it's important to show up, and also your character as a person. It will reflect on who you are, and the people who will be supporting you will be looking at you. So your character is really important. So how you present yourself and who you are as a person, and everything that connects to you is you. Kaya you should also like look into that as well as a leader. And in terms of getting the job done, leadership, in our perspective in Execom, if Myka and I won't do our jobs, then the rest of the executive committees will also be lenient, and they will be complacent on all the products that they will have. So if we set the standard there, everything will follow. So that is leadership.
So
for
what
me.
I'm getting there is this is leadership by example.
Yeah, leadership by example.
Right.
Thank
And
you.
it's all encompassing.
Correct. I
How
agree
about
with that.
Myka?
Yeah, in my case, I always tie up the idea of leadership with one word, and that's companionship. So yeah, so it might feel soft, but I feel like the word companionship is also all-encompassing in terms of actually showing up when you're needed, both in the good times and the bad times. So to be a companion to our executive committee heads, for example, to be a companion to even like your regular student that's having a struggle in their academics. So even a companion to your colleagues, for example. So I think that's a trait of leadership, not just as student leaders, but as leaders of the bigger structure of society, of the government. To be
So aside from being a role model, you also get to be establishing that relationship.
yes, exactly. To show up when you're needed, really.
Correct.
Right. So from my end naman, sir, and Ms. Rona, I believe leadership is basically living with a purpose. So if Ate Myka has companionship for leadership, for me it's really purpose. Before, I believe I speak on behalf of Ate Myka and Kuya Shem as well. Na when we that leadership really gives us that sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And that sense of, again, purpose, because we get to serve, in our own little ways. We get to serve the Silliman community, the student body. And, purpose, it differs from person to person. So personally naman, I really believe in, transformative leadership. I always try to give people their own spotlights and their own platforms where they can also lead, also in their own little ways. Because I believe that's when you can say that you are an effective leader, when you produce more leaders after your term.
And I would like to pick up on that one, John. When we talk about purpose, one of the most important purpose of a leader or a politician is really service, to give service, especially to those who are in need.
Right. So I'd just like to extend the discussion a bit on your characteristics that you have actually mentioned. So is it also safe to say that these qualities or these definitions of leadership are also the one that you are exemplifying in your own capacities right now?
As student leaders.
Yeah. So, like, how about you, Myka? Are you more of a leader that really accompanies your committees or what? And for Japheth, it's more on being a role model. Para bang, is this also true with your own leadership style?
I feel like how we answered our question, it's basically what popped into our mind the first thing, because I feel like it reflects our kind of leadership. It's not the concept that we are looking for ideally. I feel like it's the concept that we are as a leader. So for me, I feel like it's easier to lead by example because that's you. And I feel like that's leadership. Nothing is more pure than that. And I feel like it's if it's pure, it comes generic, if it comes organic rather, and it won't be as much of a pressure for you as a leader because
Right.
A lot of people will be looking at you and getting the job done and everything. It's gonna be hard and a lot of pressure. But if you just do it like your own way, and as long as you're progressive naman, I feel like that's cool, that's easy.
Right.
Yeah. In my case, I think it's the same. Shem actually even sometimes calls me out for micromanaging because
Yeah.
I sit in even in the smallest meetings, in the smallest groups as much as I can.
Yeah.
Like to really just be there and show my support because I think even your own presence in meetings or even in small discussions will make all the difference.
Yeah.
It shows that the highest person, like the highest person in the position right now,
Right.
is willing to spare time for this event. So it's something serious. It's something that we should take or should really give our full efforts on. So I place premium on companionship and showing up for the job.
Right,
So,
but I think that's a good cognizance with respect to the remark of Shem, no? Because on the perspective of the subcommittees, there could be also this impression of micromanaging. So I think that's a very good cognizance on that part. How about you, Christian?
Yes, sir. From my end, as I mentioned earlier, leadership is about finding your purpose. That's why ako as a leader, I really try to make it a point na everyone under me or everyone that I am leading, they always have their own chances to also lead
Correct.
other people because this way they will feel valued, they will feel appreciated, and they will feel like someone higher, like their leader trusts them. And so I hope that through this they can also find their own purpose, especially in leadership. And I hope now more than this government, this kind of leadership also reflects say in our local governments and even more so in the national politics.
Yeah, well said.
So much about leadership, no? May 9 is fast approaching, and we will, as a people, as Filipino citizens, we are about to exercise suffrage. Now, let's talk about voters' education. What is it all about?
So in our case, we believe that voters' education really starts with dialogue. So aside from that, it's not a one-way thing where individuals in power, individuals with experience will be the only ones that will just keep speaking as if it's something dogmatic na parang ganito, ganon, ganito. No, we believe that voters' education in its essence is also voters' discussion, it's voters' empowerment. And because of that, that's what we highlight in the student government, that even in our basic meetings, for example, in our programs, we provide avenues for the student body to voice out their concerns, to voice out their opinions, for example, because I believe that's how you best empower your voters. For them to be heard, for them to know that their voices will always land on ears that are willing to listen. So I think that's the principle that we've been following in the SG for voters' education.
Any addition?
Yes, I'd like to bank on what Ate Myka said on voters' education being kind of synonymous to voters' empowerment.
Yeah.
Because through voters' education, this is where we make voters realize the power that they hold, especially with upcoming national elections. Because sometimes, Manggod, we think na, that's just one vote, dili naman na maka-change yun sa Philippines. But, if everyone thinks like this, then we won't go anywhere. That's why through voters' education, we really want to make it a point that everyone understands that this one vote can really change the next 6 years of the country.
So I would like to emphasize, guys, one vote, your vote really matters.
Yeah. So gasolina pa na every drop counts.
And a single conversation
That's
will come a
true.
long way.
Yes. Definitely, this is not the first time that we're going to conduct an election, no, national or maybe at the local level. And I'm sure there have been also a lot of voters education initiatives that have been done in the past. But it seems that the problems on, let's say, disinformation, the problems on, let us say, poor decision making,
Yeah.
they seem to be repetitive. So what component of voter education do we lack? And do we really have to fundamentally address first?
I feel like it's both an advantage and then also a disadvantage, or maybe like a challenging part on our generation, especially that now everything is online.
Yeah.
Like we have the online platform with us. If in the past elections, if this information is still there, it's more of a it's more found in newspapers or in hearsay street conversations. But right now,
It
it's
has
challenging.
migrated to
it
the
has migrated to
virtual
online
space.
platform, and I feel like it's a bit more challenging because there are platforms, for example, like TikTok, that we can't really know if it's true or not, and it's really challenging because everybody can access that. Like even children can do that, but it's our discretion if we fact check this. So I feel like what we lack is really the time to, or the privilege of time to fact check, because some people are busy. If they see this, okay, eto na, it's on them if they believe it or not. But if you have the luxury of time to access and search stuff, then that's on you. So maybe it's about time that we have a government that will call out the companies that are holding this. For example, if Facebook is allowing this information in social media, then we can hold them accountable to that. But I feel like that's such an idealistic picture, but that's what I can say about that.
I'd like to support actually, Shem. We have our own discussions, just the both of us. I know some people see it as a hardline stance, but I think it's a necessary stance for these companies to be held accountable. I think that's possible. Some states, for example, are really imposing laws or regulations for these kinds of platforms, so like online platforms. But beyond that, like having these kinds of regulations or laws, for example, I think it's time for our methods of calling out to also adapt to the online setup. So it's not just calling them out verbally, it's not just calling them out in discussions, but also creating programs. And I'd like to share, for example, I just discovered this platform called eboto.ph. That's e/boto, which is a website where you have multiple research volunteers that collate all the valid sources of information of all the different candidates. So I feel like that's a good initiative in order for us to adapt that. We have these kinds of methods, so our methods of calling them out should also adapt to our online setup. So that's from my end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christian, how do you feel that they actually had a conversation? Sorry.
This includes
Anyway, just kidding.
Yeah, I also actually agree with both of their sentiments.
Even if they did not agree.
Yeah, it's okay. Sanay na char. Pero yeah, from my end, I think what we lack with voters' education is the sense of empathy and understanding. Actually, as mentioned by Ate Myka kanina, voters' education should happen through dialogues and conversations. And I actually personally, I'm trying to deviate from the term educate because this comes off arrogant and condescending magud sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're trying to quote-unquote educate someone, they will feel like, so you feel like I'm uneducated or you feel like you know better than me. So when we do voters' education, even if we are trying to deviate from that word, I believe we should always come from a point of, empathy and understanding, because these people, although we can say na ilang decision making sa'yo from our end, we should always understand where they are coming from. Kaya ba sinapod sila laing nabasa or nasa laing na experience with these leaders. So that's why when we do, our initiatives, it must always come from a point of, again, empathy and understanding.
Right. So that's why Christian, in our conversations as well, the two of us about understanding, because we had a seminar on public speaking with regards to stories.
Yes.
And it's important that all of these efforts of vote empowerment has to be contextualized in a certain story that you're trying to say. And I think Christian here just mentioned that parang who are we to educate, no? So there's also this trend on social media actually that talks about the youth very so active, but parang marami pa daw kayong bigas na kakainin. Parang, who are you to speak out? No? Parang, hey, you still have a lot of journeys to undergo, basically. So, what is your role? What is your role in voters' education? Or let's say in the election as a whole, maybe you can share experiences that you think are very critical. Let's start with Christian
Yes,
first.
so from my end, I personally think, as mentioned kanina sir, no, na the youth will really play a huge role in the upcoming national elections because we hold a huge percentage of the voters' population. So although people oftentimes invalidate the opinions or say the ideas of the youth, I think what makes the youth really parang persistent in participating in these discourses is the fact na for the next 6 years, our generation will be the ones who will be graduating, who will be finding our first jobs,
Correct.
who will probably form families. So, that's why the next 6 years will really be crucial for our generation.
Correct.
That's why we have to make certain na by that time, na kami na ang nasa, let's say, different positions, kami na ang actually leading our own initiatives, our own, let's say, again, families and our own organizations, we have to be under a government which will ensure and make certain na all of our needs are met, all of our needs are being heard and listened to. That's why at the end of the day, even though they think na the youth madami pang bigas na kakainin, the youth really has to speak up because again, kami yung primarily ma-affect kung kinsa man ang ma-elect sa upcoming May national elections.
In other words, you are talking about your future.
Yes.
Everyone's future, right? Maybe you'd like to add some sentiments.
Yeah, I just want to highlight na it's our future we are talking about. That's why it's a really big deal. And if you say na marami ba kaming bigas na kakainin, well, nakain nyo na yun. Kaya that's yours and let us eat ours. So it's our time. That's why it's a big deal. And our role, I guess, if we go back to the question, what our role is, I feel like it's important to also talk to our peers, to youth of our ages kasi marami pa rin sa kanila na naniniwala sa misinformation and stuff like that. And it's apparent because if I feel so strongly about my future, you should too.
Yeah.
Because in the next 6 years, you'll be there too.
Yes.
So it's our role as well to have them look at the perspective that we are looking at.
Correct.
I feel like.
So yeah, from what I understand, you mentioned a while ago that voters' education is mainly about creating a dialogue, having a conversation with people, even those who are in contrast with your opinion or your views. So can you recall a moment in your life when you had actually a conversation with someone who you don't really share the same views, especially in politics, and how did it go?
Right, and if I may add, did you block someone on social media, or have you been blocked by someone? Okay.
Maybe I could start. Nakasmile si Shem
may hugot si
Japheth.
Myka.
Because my father and I have support different political candidates, support different presidential candidates,
Right.
support candidates that are directly are
Direct
pitted,
competitors.
pitted towards each other, for example. But I'd like to share my own personal views, for example, in blocking relationships when discussing politics. I'd like to share, this is my own personal view. I feel like we should start avoiding that kind of mentality because it's counterproductive, it's counterintuitive to a more, a more understanding society that we're trying to strive towards. So when I discuss with my dad, we start from, a place of principles, like what does he believe in, what do I believe in, and how do we see that in the different candidates we're trying to support, and maybe also share acknowledge that the other candidate is also sharing, holds the same principles. So parang ganun. So I hope I haven't been blocked by my friends. I don't know yet, but so far I haven't blocked anyone on social media, and I'll try to be as civil as possible, even with my family especially.
Yes.
John Japheth?
Sige ako, from my end, also the conversations na related to politics also happened in my family, but thankfully my parents don't support naman any candidate going against my candidate, but they were just undecided, or basically they didn't have any idea, they didn't have enough information for them to decide who to vote for.
Okay.
And I was very happy that they they talk to me and they ask me, parang di mo na kinsa man ang maayo, kinsa kay like my dad told me na kamo man ron ang mas exposed sa social media and kamo ang mas exposed to information. So he felt daw na I should know better when it comes to this, and that's why he asked for my opinion. And I'm very happy na at this point, our family supports one candidate. And when it comes to like blocking, I also want to agree with Ate Myka na it will be very pointless to block someone just because they have an opposite a contradicting political view, because the entire point of why we are trying to do initiatives on voters education is because we want to influence more people to join us. And so if we block them, then atong target audience or target recipients of the initiatives we're trying to put up will be ma-block na sila. So again, counterproductive siya. So I also hope na we try to parang avoid doing that. But if it's for your, say, mental health or your personal well-being na, then feel free and block people na murag dili na jud
You want
healthy
to
for
avoid
yourself.
that toxic.
Sabi ko lang sa kanya, sana all. Kasi his parents are, welcome or open to discussions like that.
Yeah.
Myka and I's parents aren't. Like, they're totally, okay, you vote who's your president, and then I'll vote mine. Like, you do you. I mean, I respect that, but you should know better. Like, stuff like that. But in terms of blocking, I'm if I may, so my relationship with my parents don't change regardless if we don't even like agree, and I only do that to them, and I don't care about the others. Like I don't block because it's like what Christian said. It's for my mental health also. Like I'm only gonna talk to people who want to have a discussion. And if you're like a diehard supporter, if you are like dismissive of information, then I don't want to spend my time with that. I don't want to waste my time. So I don't block. I want them to keep on seeing what I am posting on Facebook. So I might agree with Myka that I'm not sure if I have been blocked. Then I hope I'm not. It's also for them to see, because as much as possible, I post, I share stuff in social media that are informative and are also factual. And
And at the end of the day, politics and politicians are fleeting, and family is there forever.
Yes. So, I mean, it's really kind of a choice, no? To be selective also to the people that you'd like to engage in a conversation. And on that note, what then is our way in establishing a healthy conversation? In your voter education initiative, I'm sure that you might have touched this area. What tips can you provide to our viewers, especially those who will be voting for the first time and they are still undecided? No? Like, according to a recent post of my FB friend, she doesn't know yet sino yung iboboto this May 2022. So, what are the tips that you can give so that you can engage in a much more healthier and I would say productive conversation?
If I may, there's this thing or Tagalog word called mapanghamig. I can't really translate it, but it's just mas persevering yung pag-persuade mo. I mean, it's fine if we don't agree with each other, but we can continue to reason with each other healthily. And as a first-time voter myself, and also to everyone who's listening, na first-time voters, then let's take a look at our vote as something very special and meaningful. Because our firsts are meaningful. Our first mansaries are meaningful. Our first time we had a taste of a special spaghetti is meaningful. And now that we are taking a part or being involved in national elections that will speak of like a percentage of our lives, that's meaningful. So if you take a look at that, your choices and your methods of understanding things will be more open and it will be more productive. And in talking to people there are people kasi in the registered voters or even non-registered voters in general, there are people who are like very dismissive. So how I think we deal with them is there's always something that can take a person. Like if they are for the economy, for example, not naman taking things personal, but if this person is a teacher, so let's counter things that way. Like maybe what are the facts that they are presenting that is in line with the education of the Philippines, in the
Right.
Department of Education, and then on your candidate and how you should go about it. I
Right.
feel like in a person na makakausap natin, I feel like there's always a thing that they are open about. I don't think so na close talaga sila sa lahat for everything. So, and also there are people naman na not stressful to talk to kasi they're very open, they're very
They have big ears.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
ears, and that's lucky if yun. And kaya yun, mapanghamig lang. They don't agree with you immediately, but just continue to be perseverant in persuading them na kasi kaya ganito ako, kaya ganyan. It's just 27 days.
How about you, Myka?
Yeah, in my case, I'd like to touch on like bigger discussions or open forums. And this might come off technical, but I found it very helpful to really have like first like structured discussions. So this is for forums. So to really guide your discussions on which topics or principles do you want to talk into, so that you're guided and you know ad hominem or even
Hindi
unnecessary
kalat-kalat,
unnecessary discussions will not be entertained, for example, kasi you want your discussions to be as productive as possible. So
Right.
you want to hear the principles, you want platforms, you want plans. So unnecessary things must be avoided. So that's on the technical side. But secondly, to reinforce that kind of structured discussions, I think in my observation, it has been very helpful to have moderators at plays. And like to give my kudos to Christian, because during our first semester event, we have this initiative called the Sugod Silliman. So
Yeah.
that's the umbrella term for all our
We featured that in this in the show.
yeah, so that was very helpful because Christian was always a moderator for all, I think, episodes. So because of that, both differing parang opinions, there was a middle ground to absorb emotions, to
Medyo
absorb,
punching bag.
yeah. But it was very helpful to calm down, for example, tight tensions.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, because it's natural for humans, you know, basic psychology, to get worked up, to
Yeah.
get emotional. So that was very helpful. So in my case, structured discussions and to have moderators, it has been a very plus, like big advantage.
Yes. How about you, Christian? Since you are the moderator
Yeah.
of our...
So, well, I totally agree with what Ate Myka and Christian said. But also, what I practice personally, again, as I mentioned earlier, we should always avoid to sound condescending and arrogant when we try to converse with someone who has different political values. So ako, I always start with asking why. Like, okay, kinsa, and then why. But of course, which will sound na interested jud ko ngano siya imong gi-vote, because wasn't your candidate is better than my candidate, so I will be happy to shift to your candidate if you can convince me na he or she has better platforms than mine. And then if dili madala sa ingana, well, ako, I don't say facts na ako mismo moingon. What I do is just send, articles, send links. Now, if you have free time, you visit these links, kaya this will be very helpful. Now, in the matter naman of, families who have different political stances from each other, what I did is, for example, if my dad won't listen to me, I will try to talk to someone who has more influence over my dad. That could be my uncle who is older than him, or that could be my grandfather who, kay sila ni na people, my dad will listen to them. And this is where we can see na, influence plays a big part sa voters education initiatives. Dapat the person who will speak about these things will be credible and someone na, masaligan yun po sang person or sang recipient of that initiative. So again, for example, if your dad dili mo agree nimo, dili siya maminaw nimo because again, you're a kid, you're a child, maybe their boss or your uncle na older than them, kay dira sila maminaw. So that's when we try to, really leverage on as much options as we can if dili gid sila maminaw nato.
Yeah. So what I'm getting here is that the best way to engage into a healthy discussion is really to discuss, just to discuss, but of course wrap everything with respect.
Yeah.
So as mentioned earlier, the elections are forthcoming, and I think the heated conversation would really be on the national elections. What are the qualities of a president that you're looking for? Are you looking for an economist, someone who promotes unity, someone who is more into discipline, more into environment-oriented? So what are the qualities of a leader that you are looking for? You will answer that question after we pause for a short break. Welcome back to #Silliman. Still together with us are our student leaders at Silliman University Student Government. And before we pause for a short break, we actually asked them about what are the qualities of a president, no, that you are actually looking for. So to keep it short, perhaps let us keep it 3 words, no, so that it's going to be very concise for us. So who would like to start?
Can I go first? Okay, because the adjectives might, run out. My
Hoarding of adjectives pala ito.
yeah. So my the type of leader that I'm looking at has the values of number 1, courage to face the truth, and courage to step up even at the trying times. Second is who is conscious of the situation, conscious of what are the needs of time, conscious of what they can do he or she can do as an individual, and what he or she can't do. Because by then you can identify your strengths and weaknesses. So conscious, courage, and competence. Competence, last ko sinabi because it's really important. You're not lenient, you're not complacent on your tasks. You know what to do, you get the job done, you're competent, and that means that your cabinet members and everyone you will appoint will also be competent. And I feel like if the president has these values, I feel like we are in good hands.
So if Silliman University has 5 C's, Japheth has 3 C's for the best leader, no?
Sige.
Myka.
Maybe Myka has also 4 A's? 3 A's? Okay.
Pressure ko. But maybe in my case, just to keep it short, really, I'm really looking for a leader that shows up. That's it. Like, a leader that shows up, hindi yung Mia, missing in action, shows up when they're needed, like I said earlier, both in good and bad times, both when they're demanded to show up, both when they're called by the public. That's the kind of leader that I want, because if wala siya, if that leader as early as now doesn't show up when they're called, what more for the upcoming 6 years? So that's it in my case. Just, we need leaders to show up in all the times they're needed.
Right. So from my end, I'm looking for a leader who is proactive rather than reactive. I want a leader who has foresight, a leader who is already able to, identify problems even before they arise, and not a leader na mulihok ra if na ang problem in front of them. Because, dagan na kay problema. So if we wait for problems na moabot and then dira pa mulihok, then the Philippines cannot progress from where it is currently. And how can we see if a leader has foresight or if a leader is proactive? Then we can look at their track records. What have they done even before they started to campaign for their next the next positions that they're vying for. So I really hope that the others also look at really the track records of the candidates they are supporting, para we can see and we can have a glimpse of what kind of leadership they will give us should they win the upcoming national elections.
Right.
Sir, so before we had a break, you mentioned about the tips that you can give to our audience, and I hope they really took note about those things on how to start and sustain conversation. Now, as student leaders, do you have any efforts, activities, or initiatives that you did to actually promote voters' education and participation?
So I guess on behalf of everyone in the SJ, it was a collective effort, and it's still ongoing right now. The umbrella term, as I've mentioned, is Sugod Silliman.
Okay.
And under those, we have multiple projects or activities. In the first semester, the highlight were I think that was 8 weeks, 8 episodes.
Yes, 8 episodes.
8 episodes. It was in a podcast form, but the goal was voters' education, Sugod Silliman podcast, where we invited speakers from multiple sectors of the community to discuss international affairs, the environment, local politics, for example. So that was the thrust of the first semester.
So I'd just like to make this clear for our audience. Can we still access the podcast?
Yeah, so it's Sugod Silliman has their own page in Facebook. So basically, you just look up the I think it's called Sugod Silliman. All the episodes are still there, and you can see actually Christian there.
Yes, and actually the episodes were also posted or published on Spotify. They can just search Pag-usapan natin to or Sugod Silliman, and all the episodes they can listen to it during their free time. Okay, those were really fruitful discussions because again we invited personalities both from local and national politics. So we were really able to gather a lot of insights, especially with the youth's role in the upcoming national elections.
If I
Were you
may,
done? Yeah.
if I may continue, for the second semester, Sugod Silliman is still here, and the thrust now is to really inform the public on the current candidates that we have, the roster. So we regularly post the candidates and their respective platforms, their plans, for example. And recently, like I've mentioned, we just closed the survey showing the pulse of the Silliman studentry, which candidates are being supported by the students. So from there, I think they're still in the works. And I'd like to recognize really the committees that are spearheading the event. So that's the Advocacy Committee of the SUSG and the Students' Rights and Welfare Committee. They have been heading it. They've been very amazing. So.
Yeah. And we also want to emphasize that the way we do it is really equal to all candidates. We don't treat anyone as as important as the other, but or than the other. We show if the category is platforms, we show their platforms equally, and
Yeah, so you're trying to be objective, no?
As
And-
much as possible.
Yes.
So that the Sillimanians from our at least it's gonna come from us, and we've placed the facts there, and it's for you to judge now.
Exactly.
Right. So, what you also see on social media, no, it's actually a mixture of different reactions. Some would say that why bother engage in this kinds of discussion when in fact, at the end of the day, after the elections, it's going to be us who will be trying to serve, no, on the plate 3 times a day. So why do we have to engage this, and even to the extent that why vote? I mean, why do I have even to exercise my right to vote? So, what is your message to these people who kind of, to me, they kind of lose hope in our elections, unfortunately. So, what are your short messages to these people, and especially those who have not registered this time?
Yeah.
Maybe you can also encourage them to register, and in case that already registered, maybe you can also encourage them to cast their votes.
You know what? I understand that there are people who choose not to meddle and who choose not to be involved because our mental. They might be growing. They might have been under circumstances that are unfortunate, or they might be preoccupied with things that unfortunate also. So maybe they don't have the time to. But you know what? Elections are really a big thing. Politics, everything is politics. Regardless if we say na politika lang yan, that's just one time. No, that's the time we can tell the future. Kasi nasa kamay literally. Because the government, if you elect someone there, it's gonna be up down. So for
Domino
example, domino effect. Who will that president be appointing in the Department of Education? Baka magdagdag na naman ng other years, or in Department of Finance, or in any departments. It will trim down to the method or the way you have to manage to get your plate on the table. So for example, how your agriculture will look like, but that's gonna be super technical, no? But in terms of like getting them involved, I feel like if you look at your children or your future na ganon, as important as how election is, I feel like you'll understand na, yeah, I'm apathetic right now, but that can change. You don't have to be super involved, but at least get up and vote.
Yeah. Myka and Christian, we're running out of time, so maybe you can just shorten your messages.
So no problem. So I understand that sometimes it feels like politics is distant. So sometimes parang tayo naman yung kakayod, something like that. But I just hope that we understand the interconnectedness of everything. So what decision our politicians make will affect, for example, kung gaano kamahal yung bigas, like how expensive are our things going to be, like even our day-to-day activities will be affected by the policies that they approve, by the
Right.
policies that they lobby. So it's that important, and we have the power now to dictate how our future will look like. So I really do hope you vote in these upcoming elections on May 9.
Christian.
Yes, and from my end, again, before we understand the power of our votes, we should also understand the power that the government holds. Again, they will be making decisions that will greatly affect our lives for the next 6 years. And at the end of the day, more than a right, I hope we take a look. We look at voting as a responsibility, a civic obligation to the Philippines.
So, Ron, maybe we can also ask them, aside from these, what are the activities that we can look forward? No?
Yes, especially that we have a news that, face-to-face will soon be experienced by, our students who missed school, face-to-face interaction with the classmates and the teachers. What are the things that we can look forward to?
All right, so I think I'll be speaking on behalf of the SUSG. So I believe with the new calendar, August is where our classes will start, but that's also where our Founders Month celebration falls. And to just share to the public, I do hope you are comforted by the fact that we are preparing for all instances. So we are preparing still for a possibility that we can go all online because, the case of the pandemic is so unpredictable. So we have to prepare
That's
for that
true.
as well. But I'd like for you guys to know that we're also preparing for a possibility of a face-to-face Sibalag celebration in all cases, whether it be from level 1 to level 4 alert level for the pandemic. So all of those instances are being prepared for, but we are really praying and hoping for the best, that we can see everyone else back in the campus because we're really missing everyone. So it's in the talks and plans are in the way already.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Myka. And of course, you please be updated through the Facebook page of Silliman University as well as the SUSG FB page. Now, to wrap up our conversation, we have a game called the 5-second rule. Ayan. So, you have basically 5 seconds. This is kind of a fast talk, so you don't have to think twice or thrice of your answer. Just say whatever is in your mind. All right, so let's begin with Christian. Christian, give me 3 pet peeves.
Pet peeves are late, waiting, and
And
Myka, name 4 things you love most about Silliman.
The amphitheater, the loose,
Three.
there's so
okay, Shem, name 3 mention 3 names you wouldn't forget.
Arlene, Neil, Shem. That's my parents and me.
Okay, Christian, first 3 things you do in the morning.
Oh.
pray. Brush my teeth, check my phone.
Cool.
Okay, safe. Myka, what are the 3 things you do before you sleep?
meditate, pray, and journal.
Okay. Japheth, 3 subjects in college you find challenging.
Strategic management, operations management, and anything foreign affairs. That wasn't hard.
Christian, what are the 3 things you look forward to after graduation?
Getting my first
1,
job,
2.
getting my own place, getting a
4.
car.
Wow.
Pressure.
Myka, 3 face-to-face activities you wish you could have experienced this year.
Sleeping in the library, participating in class, and going TGIF.
Shem, name 3 characteristics of a good leader.
Competent, courageous, and conscious.
Okay, this goes for the 3 of them. Name 3 things you look for in an ideal partner.
Ay, ako
Yes,
muna.
Christian.
Christian, manawagan ka na.
Unsa ba? Ganahan ko competent, understanding, and unsa ba? Patient. Because,
Myka,
Same, competent, listens, and is smart. Oh my God.
I just want someone who's loyal, pure, and I Understanding.
Alright.
I was waiting that they will mention one name. You know, their crush name, but you know, they're really after characteristics, no?
That's set for the next episode. Thank you very much. I think we really had an engaging, interactive, and fun conversation with our student leaders here in our episode tonight. And we have come to the last segment of this show. It's called hashtag WTP Words to Ponder. So Ron, what's the word to ponder for tonight?
You know, listening from these three brilliant minds in Silliman University, I'd like to ponder on the word involvement. You know, I'd like to pick up what Myka said earlier, that politics seems to be distant. It is because most of us, if not most of us, you know, a lot of people believe that politics is dirty. When I'd like to emphasize, no, it's not. Because politics serve as a bridge for the government and the people. And you know, this May 9, don't forget, please be involved and cast your vote. No matter who you want to support, please exercise suffrage, your right to vote, because it is a privilege and it's also a responsibility. How about you, Josh?
The word to ponder is reflect.
Reflect.
Right, because in the conversations and how noisy the social media platforms are, even the people around you, they have a lot of good points. It's really important that at the end of the day, before you cast your vote, you have reflected on that decision. And we're talking about voters' education. A lot of technologies are present, platforms, sources of information. They could be good educators.
Yeah.
They could be good teachers. But at the end of the day, the best teacher is reflection. So I hope we all reflect that we're going to choose the right leaders for this country.
So reflect and get involved.
Right. So daghang salamat for joining another episode of Hashtag Silliman. Thank you very much, and to God be the glory. Hey there, Sillimanians! Daghang salamat for supporting another episode of Hashtag Silliman. Don't forget to like our Facebook page. It's called Hashtag Silliman. We also have a YouTube account. It's called Hashtag Silliman. Don't forget to click the notification bell to get updated with our new posts.
And catch us at Phil Products every Monday at 8 p.m. And replays will be shown every Tuesday before the noontime news and every Saturday after the noontime news. This has been Ronelyn Vailoces
And Joshua Soldivillo. Catch us next week only here on Hashtag Silliman. Bye!